Good afternoon and happy Tuesday. First Alert Meteorologist Diane Phillips joining you this afternoon here as we always meet up at that 2 o'clock hour. Of course, due to some vacations, it is June after all. We weren't able to hang out yesterday, so I'm so happy to have you though hanging out with me for today. We are going to be talking about the heat still. I'm sure you've had plenty of that already, but only a little bit longer. I do have some good news and some relief coming in your First Alert forecast. Plus, we also are going to be talking about some rainfall that's going to be coming in. There's a little bit of give and take in this forecast as we go through the rest of this week. So we'll be talking about ways that you can kind of beat the heat here, but also then be prepared with what's coming up later this week. And of course, we'll also be previewing the weekend. It's never too early here during the summer season to be keeping an eye to that weekend forecast. So hopefully here with a lot of the heat lately that you've been able to kind of take care of yourself. I know I've been talking to even some of my friends and family, and they've said the heat's kind of taken a little bit of a toll. So hopefully you've been able to kind of find some water and kind of cool out a little bit, or at least stay hydrated. I know I've been keeping a lot of my water nearby, so make sure you're taking care of yourself through this heat. It's just a little bit longer, and then it is going to start to feel a little more comfortable outside, at least for a little bit. It's summer after all, so we know that we have to have a little heat to go along with it. So as we kind of get everybody joined in here, we will take a look at the conditions that we have outside currently. A lot of our temperatures are already back into the 90s this afternoon. We're currently sitting at 91 at the MBS Airport in Saginaw, same at Flint Bishop in Flint, and we have 91 in Owasso. We're at 90 degrees in Midland and 90 degrees in Cairo. We do have 89 in Mount Pleasant, so probably going to be flipping over here soon, just like Clare, that's at the 90. Same for Gladwin. So a lot of us right back at it today with more 90s that are in the forecast. We do have some upper 80s towards Houghton Lake and West Branch. Lower 80s for Houghton Lake, so a little more comfortable there. Still, though, a lot of us have been having to work with some of that humidity as well. Our lakeshore communities, of course, this is going to kind of help to warm up Lake Huron. So then as that lake breeze comes in, it should be a little bit warmer, but we are currently sitting at 64 in Harbor Beach, 66 in Port Sanilac, and we have 68 in Tawa City and 75 in Oscoda. So still a little bit cooler there. So if you're looking for some relief, head to the water, get to the shoreline. But we are going to continue to see at least the heat here for today. As we look at some of our feels like temperatures, those are currently sitting also into the mid 90s, and we even have that feels like temperature at 100 degrees in Flint. So it is still a hot afternoon. As I had mentioned, you're going to want to have that water handy. Take some breaks inside in the air conditioning. I'm sure our construction workers are prepared, but we want them taking care of themselves too. So we do find that it's still another hot afternoon, and it feels hot outside. So if you have maybe a baseball game tonight, or you just have any events that are going to take you outside this evening, still plan on it being hot and even humid outside, as that warm air, it is still around, and even warm probably isn't enough to describe it. It's simply hot outside. Now, our dew points, this is kind of the best way for us to measure humidity. I know we have our relative humidity, but kind of that dew point is really where we're able to kind of see and kind of know how it feels outside. So when we kind of get to that dew point at 70 degrees, that's, I know when myself, and I hear a lot of you say, I'm simply uncomfortable. So that is where we are sitting for some of us. Even in Flint, we're at a 74-degree dew point, so very sticky there. And that explains why we do have that feels like temperature there in the triple digits at 100 degrees. We do not have a First Alert weather day for today, but we are still finding that the heat is going to have some impacts for you, but at least the heat is maybe not necessarily as strong as what we were feeling on Sunday and even compared to yesterday. But it's still hot outside. It's just simply going to be hot here for the rest of today. I'm actually going to pull up our heat alerts that we have. So we do have our heat advisory. This is for Shiawassee and Lapeer counties. But then we do have the extreme heat warning into Genesee County. And the reason for the difference is simply because of the industrial component that we have in Genesee County. We have Flint, and of course we have a lot of buildings, we have the city, we have a lot of pavement there, and that's kind of able to hold on to a lot of that heat. So we call that the urban heat island effect. And kind of describing it here, you can see on our platform, you can have a lot of us that are just sitting into those 80s. But when we kind of add the city in, and then you kind of see that we have maybe some more rural or residential areas beside it, that temperature in town starts to really climb up. But that's because, again, we have concrete, we have the blacktop, we have cars and buildings, and all of those are able to take that heat, absorb it, and hold on to it. And then we are holding on to a lot of that heat close to where we are hanging out. So that's why a lot of times you can find some cities that are a little bit warmer. Again, that's why Flint is currently seeing that feels like temperature at 100 degrees. And that also is why we do have that extreme heat warning for Genesee County. So hopefully tomorrow, a lot of those heat advisories and warnings will be taken away. But just because the infrastructure and the city itself is why we are finding that we have those warmer temperatures. As we continue on here, I do want to talk about the humidity component in the forecast because that is still going to be sticking around. But as it becomes a little bit cooler tomorrow, we will have those dew points that also drop back a little bit. They're going to be closer towards 60 degrees, which is still where you're going to have that summer feeling. Now it's June after all, so I do anticipate it to feel like summer outside, and I anticipate that you will be feeling the same thing. So it's still going to be feeling at least like June outside and a little bit of that humidity hanging around, but nothing like what it's been lately. I know lately it's kind of a wall when you walk outside and kind of hits you, but we will see that those dew points try to climb back up as we go from Thursday into Friday, and even through the weekend. They're a little bit up and down. So just be prepared. It's summer. We are going to have some heat. We are going to have humidity. It just kind of comes with the course. So we will find that our feels like temperatures here are going to be sitting into those 90s. Now we do have some rainfall. We'll talk about that coming up. So that's going to change some of the parameters. You can see it's trying to cool down in Flint and Owasso because of the rainfall that we're forecasting. But I still anticipate that a lot of us already are going to be into the mid 90s, nearing that 100-degree mark. But then we find our winds are going to be shifting this afternoon. So we're seeing that happening actually right now. And soon we will have that northeast wind that's going to be taking hold of the forecast. That's going to allow then for some of those feels like temperatures to drop a little bit. Lake Huron still a little bit cooler, so we will find that we see some relief going into the evening, but still probably not enough after such a hot stretch. And as we go into tomorrow afternoon, look at those feels like temperatures. No more red is here on the map. We're going to be looking at some 70s, maybe getting close to some 80s, but overall very much a more comfortable forecast. Now, high temperatures tomorrow, we only have those into the upper 70s, and a handful of 80s could be possible if we can get some sun in between, but we do have some rain chances, so that's why we are going to be finding our conditions to be on the cooler side compared to the 90s, but overall it'll be actually a little bit below average. We should normally be tracking some lower 80s at this point, so forecasting 70s, and the forecast is, yes, a little bit cooler. Now, you may have heard lately that we are going to be looking at a heat dome setting up, and that's what we've been under. So if you're asking, when is that heat dome going to be moving on out or breaking down, the good news is very soon. So we are going to find that currently that heat dome kind of has us in that warm zone. So we have the colder air that's kind of stuck to our north, and then that pattern, that flow, just kind of keeps us on the warm side of things. And this has been in this kind of setup here for even late last week through the weekend. And then a lot of times as that heat comes in, it's able to kind of amplify itself as it gets closer to Michigan. And that's why we've really been seeing the heat and those numbers taking off. But as we go a little bit later into the week, you'll actually find that the forecast, that pattern, breaks down a little bit. So that heat dome is going to start to dissipate. We find that the pattern kind of becomes a little bit more of a flat line, a little more zonal flow, and that is going to allow us to cool it back down a little bit. Now, I don't have real refreshing temperatures in the forecast, but I at least see a break from some of the 90s. It's still summer, so as I mentioned, it's going to feel like it, but at least we are starting to see that heat dome that you've maybe heard about starting to break down a little bit. Now, we will also want to find ways to cool out. One of my favorite ways is maybe going to get a bite of ice cream. So if you are going to go, though, make sure you're prepared to get down to business if you have the cone, especially because a lot of drips are going to be expected. I know I went and had some ice cream here over the weekend, and I had the dish. So I had a little bit of time because those ice cream cones are going to melt pretty quickly in our temperatures that are going to be into the 80s and 90s, and then the humidity on top of it. So there's no time to talk while having ice cream. It's definitely focus on the sweet treat and make sure that you can kind of get everything cleaned up because you don't want to waste a drop of that fun summer treat. So make sure that you're eating that pretty quickly. And I'm going to kind of give you an update here as that pattern breaks down that we were talking about. We will see quite a few rain chances here as we go through the rest of this week. You're going to find that we do have a little bit of a rainier pattern. So we are going to be talking about that coming up here in our show. But before we do that, I'm going to take a real quick break and we will be right back. Thanks for sticking with us. We are going to continue to kind of first alert you to the rain chances that we have here for the rest of this week. As I had mentioned, our weather pattern is going to be breaking down, so that's going to kind of ease some of the heat that we have in the forecast. But we are going to continue to be looking at some trickier weather as far as the rainfall is concerned. So kind of diving right back into your first alert forecast, you will see that we have rain chances here for the rest of the week and still going into the weekend. So this, if you have some plans, kind of keep an eye to the forecast, but none of these days are going to be a total washout regarding the rain, but we are still going to be looking at some scattered rain chances as we go. I do also want to discuss what we have currently on radar. So far, we only have some showers coming in, and we're seeing that a lot of those are located just towards Ogama and Iosco counties. So zooming in here, we are going to see that these have kind of bubbled up and bloomed a little bit, and we're going to continue to kind of see a lot of that stay east of 75. So I'm anticipating that that lake breeze is going to start to take hold, is just what we're seeing here now. So mainly heavy rainfall is going to be the main concern. Thankfully, severe weather threat is going to be pretty limited. So some routine general summer thunderstorms to be expected, but we are finding no lightning. I do have the lightning, or actually let's turn the lightning on here. Doesn't seem like we have any lightning being detected. So these are not thunderstorms. And so these are just going to be some pretty steady rain showers. And with the humidity, they can kind of tap into all that moisture and then bring it down in buckets. So that's why we've been picking up, if you've been caught under a thunderstorm here since the humidity and the heat has been around, you've noticed it's a lot of rain. So that's because we are able to kind of get that moisture out of the air and bring it down in the form of rain. And we will find that then we have a lot of water sitting around afterwards. But I also want to take your attention further south, because we have also seen quite a few thunderstorms develop on some lines here that are just south of mid-Michigan. So as these go, we do have some lightning, and we have a pretty good cluster of some storms that are staying just south, closer towards Livingston County. So if you're going to be driving along 23, maybe headed just south out of Fenton, you are going to find that you have some thunderstorms that are going to be rolling through. Now this is going to continue to be a line, and that rain is going to be headed still in our direction. I'm interested to see the orientation. Looks like it's going to be headed like it's trying to stay just south of mid-Michigan, just south of the county lines of Shiawassee and Genesee counties. So we're going to be seeing if that can kind of get a little bit more of a pull northward, and if that's, or if it's going to be staying then towards our south. So we will be watching these. So far, we haven't seen anything severe in these thunderstorms, but still, it is going to be kind of your routine thunderstorm activity. If we do have a lightning near your location, make sure that you are going to be headed inside. You want to just hang inside, away from windows, doors, kind of unplug your cell phone. If you're watching us on there, make sure that you are kind of unplugged from that power charger just as these thunderstorms are going to be rolling through. A pretty big help is going to be the First Alert Weather app. So we have our lightning tracker on there. So it'll say lightning's been detected near your location. And it'll also tell you how many miles that you have from that. So if you have those alerts on, those are great here for the summer season, especially if you're outside and maybe having so much fun that you've lost track of how the weather is, to where your phone can alert you to when we do have conditions that could be dangerous and when you need to head inside. Also, the radar tab on there is going to be a pretty helpful tool. So use that First Alert Weather app. It's great. I also, over the weekend, we had put some tips on there, 5 tips to help you stay a little bit cooler and kind of beat the heat. And so we want to always help you, whether it's just even keeping an eye to the rain or even trying to save a dollar here on not running the air conditioning. So we are going to continue to find that our conditions are still going to be a little bit rainy, and that's why it's going to be a good use to have that First Alert Weather app. Now, as I had mentioned, we're not anticipating a lot of severe weather within the storms that we have popping up on radar this afternoon. So on our severe weather outlook, we do have a marginal risk, which is kind of that 1 out of 5. That lighter green color is our non-severe, actually. So non-severe thunderstorms are possible. So we are going to find that a lot of us, though, do still need to be keeping an eye to any thunderstorms, but thankfully they're not anticipated to be as strong. As we go through the hour by hour, you can see it's trying to pick up on some of those showers and thunderstorms that we have just south of Shiawassee and Genesee counties, but it is kind of populating them a little bit further north. So the resolution is off by a few miles. But the concept is that the rainfall that we were watching towards our south is going to be coming close towards I-69. So Shiawassee, Genesee, and Lapeer counties is where we're going to be watching for some of those showers and thunderstorms, but we still are going to have some of that bubble up action coming off of the lake breeze, so mainly along and east of 75. And you'll see some of that build here as we get closer to the 4 o'clock hour, so that might be even headed towards the thumb and kind of through there. So if you do want to take the boat out tonight, make sure you're checking radar before you head out on the water. And we are still going to be seeing that some of the boundaries that are left over, and with some of the cooler pools of air that will be left, that we could have some showers and thunderstorms that are still holding on by the time we get just past dinner. But overall, the coverage is going to become a little bit lighter. But still, we will here for the afternoon and evening with the heat be forecasting scattered showers and thunderstorms. Now, the further west and further inland you are, the better chance you have at staying dry here this evening. Now, it gets a little bit dicey as we go into Wednesday. Our weather models are not necessarily on the same page. We don't have a consistent picture here. So we do have the chance for seeing some rainfall kind of overnight and leading us into Wednesday morning. So it would just be a handful of showers kind of sneaking into mid-Michigan. Shouldn't really be too troublesome for the morning commute. I don't anticipate a lot of heavy rain with this one. But as we go through the day, we kind of have this boundary that's going to be sitting up around us. So it will allow that rainfall to kind of be hanging around mid-Michigan. But the question is how well is that coverage for us? So we are going to find some showers and thunderstorms are still going to be possible on Wednesday. We may, though, be able to make it through the day, or at least some of us might be able to make it through the day and not see any rain at all. So keep in mind that we are going to still be looking at a wet and rainy forecast, but you may find that you don't pick up on the rain. So it's going to be pretty widely scattered and kind of spotty in the coverage. Also, as we go into Thursday, you can see here, I'm going to actually back it up a little bit, that we have a lot of rain Wednesday night going into Thursday morning that tries to stay towards our north. So we're really going to be watching to kind of see these moisture transport lines and where they're able to sit. And then if we have that rainfall coming in. So we may need to drop some percentages of rain. So even though when we were looking at a rainy week as this pattern's breaking down, as the heat dome starts to fall apart, we aren't going to find that any of these days are completely a soaker. It's not going to be kind of stuck inside weather. So here for the summer, if you're maybe watching the kids or doing that babysitting job, you are going to have some chances to get outside here, but you will have to contend with some rain. Now, for the severe risk for today, we are going to find that it would mainly be the heavy rain that I had mentioned earlier when we were looking at all that red on radar, because that's signaling the heavy rain. But also some strong winds could be possible in some of the thunderstorms. So if you kind of notice the leaves are kind of shaking and blowing around a little bit, some stronger winds are going to be possible in some of our thunderstorms. But thankfully, that hail threat is pretty low just because it is so warm. We are going to find that that freezing line is quite a bit higher in the atmosphere, and also that tornado threat is none for today. So even though that tornado threat is none, doesn't mean that we can't have some winds that might cause you some trouble. So keep in mind and stay weather aware as those thunderstorms are going to be coming in. As I had mentioned, some heavy rainfall is going to be possible. Now, this map is not necessarily exact, but the whole idea that I want you to take away from this is that the rainfall is going to be scattered. So it really just depends on who sees rain and then how much of it that you get. And with it being more humid, if you do pick up on the rain, you could be seeing some higher totals, especially in thunderstorms. Those are able to carry a lot more water, and then that can fill up your rain gauge a little bit quicker. So we are going to see that kind of that trend a little bit further north That's where we have some higher totals. Now there in Bad Axe, you can see it says 2 inches of rain. I think that's a little bit on the strong side. Of course, we could have a thunderstorm that could maybe fill up somebody's rain gauge a little bit higher than that. But I anticipate that a lot of us are going to be seeing rain totals of less than an inch, a little bit closer towards a ½ inch. So 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch is a pretty good range for a lot of us. But again, this is just kind of a general guide. This is not exact. So when we see some of these 1, 2 inch marks, this isn't necessarily going to be what you have to dump out of the rain gauge, but we are going to at least be seeing some rainfall. So for farmers who need a little bit of water, we are going to find that here. Now, I also want to cover our low temperatures because we really haven't cooled out a lot at night. So at least tonight, we are going to find that we get back into the mid 60s. So if you don't have air conditioning in your home, you'll still have a little bit of humidity, but at least we're not seeing lows into the mid 70s because that's really when we haven't cooled out much. But at least we are going to be seeing those into the mid 60s. So a little bit of relief there. That's going to help us then cool out as we go into tomorrow. And so as we take a check of your 7-day forecast, we do have highs tomorrow at 77 degrees and then 79 for Thursday. But that little window where you can maybe give your AC unit a little bit of a break from running, or maybe won't need to run as hard, we do still have 80s, mid to upper 80s starting Friday and going into next week. So even though this heat dome is starting to break down and we see some relief as early as tomorrow, happy to see it because I know we have had some medical emergencies and people are not necessarily feeling well. But don't get caught off guard that we're going to be done with the heat because that summer air is still around. So it's a little bit more manageable when we are talking mid to upper 80s, but it's still going to be very warm outside and very much like summer. So some pool days and staying hydrated are going to be key here as we go throughout the summer season. Also, those scattered rain chances you can see for Tuesday, Wednesday, and even into Thursday, a little bit more spotty on that coverage, widely scattered. And then as we go into Saturday and Sunday, it's a little bit drier in the forecast. We are still keeping with the heat some precipitation chances in. It's not going to be a total wash here in the forecast, but we definitely see a little more drier trend towards the weekend. That's when that heat's going to pick back up. So if you have some plans, or maybe you're just going to be going to the cottage or wanting to get out on Lake Huron, you will find that you have some drier days, a lot of sunshine. We also just had the summer solstice on Friday, so we are still going to be finding that our sun angle is pretty strong. We are now losing a little bit of time, a few seconds each day as far as the daylight is concerned, but it's still going to be quite nice here for the weekend. But if we do need to make some changes, make sure that you are checking your First Alert Weather app. Again, that QR code is right here in case you don't have it. I know I talk about it a lot here, but that's just a great tool to have. And that way that you can stay on top of the weather as it's ever changing, and especially with us looking at the rainfall that we have coming through currently. Now, another check of our pinpoint Doppler radar, you are going to see that we do still have the showers that are coming through our northern counties, and then we do have the rainfall just off towards our south. So we don't have that quite coming in towards Shiawassee and Genesee counties, but we are seeing that towards the Heartland, Brighton area. So for folks driving on 23, you're going to be running into a little bit of rain here this afternoon. Now, of course, if you are going to be doing some traveling, make sure you have that First Alert Weather app. Keep an eye to radar and the showers that we have here for the afternoon. And we will be back here tomorrow at the First Alert Weather Desk. We will be on Facebook, YouTube, we'll be at WNEM.com, and also on the TV5 news app. And of course, we also send the push alert on the First Alert Weather app that sends you to our website to join us here for our live stream. But also you can catch us on Android and Apple television, and then on the TV5 Roku and Fire Stick channel. So if you have a Roku or Fire Stick, all you got to do is have the app, and then you can join our stream right within there on your TV. So there's multiple ways that you can connect with us. And of course, as the summer season gets busy and you have some plans, check in. We have a little more time here in digital to go behind the scenes. So maybe we can kind of keep an eye to the forecast and fine tune it as your events do come along. But I thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and hopefully you can get outside and enjoy a little bit of that sun before that is going to be disappearing for those scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. Have a good one.